wrap up our learning journey in the past 1 week with a session on convergence of AI and blockchain, increased efficiency and security. We are indeed blessed to have him with us today. He is the director, RMM Powerfleet USA. He is having very many years of experience in the field of analytics and IoT. He is an influential leader who leverages true passion and an unwavering commitment to inculcate data-driven management strategy. He is also a certified GE Lean Six Sigma Black Belt and change management leader for transition, business integration, and value generation. We are indeed happy to have him with us. I request you to kindly take over the session. Over to you, sir.
Hello all. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yep. So we are all good, right?
Yes, sir. Fine.
So, thanks a lot for a kind introduction. Hope you all had a wonderful session till now. So how many of you, can we just start with the expectation a little bit? So how many participants we have as of now?
Sir, we have nearly 70-80 participants registered. All are faculty members from other engineering colleges. Majority are into research. Then we have few students also.
That's great to know. So I'll start with a little bit of summarizing from how what is the need and why this is important, why we are speaking about it. And then we'll open it for discussion after the end of my presentation. Is that okay? Or if you want to have a small intro about the different sessions which has happened, then it will be helpful too. Can we do that?
Yes, sir, sure.
Because I just wanted to know the audience. You did say that the audience are different college professor, faculty, as well as students, little bit, right?
Yes, sir.
Just give me a couple of minutes. I'm trying to share. So let me set some kind of expectation. Am I audible? Everything good?
Yes, sir. Everything good. Audible, and we can see your screen.
Okay. So let me start with some kind of background of the relevance of what we are speaking about. A couple of weeks back, I see an article back home in India that Rajiv Gandhi Yogana scheme for the daily wage compensation has been used by using Aishwarya photo and Deepika Padukone's photos. So the ID cards are having made up of imaginary people, and even with celebrities photos in it, and we are one of the top nation with all the technical capability. Sorry. So we are one of the top technically advanced nation with the best in class AI and blockchain professionals, but still we are not able to detect even the basic fraud which anyone can link it to, right? So I'm just laying the importance how by use of blockchain for identity management and AI for initial filtering all the application process and also understanding a pattern of fraud, you can control these kind of leakages of government schemes and revenue. So this is just an example of right in front of us, things are going wrong or misused or abused, but where we can put the convergence of AI and blockchain. So going to repeat AI to identify that if the photographs and the identity which was given is even real, or even is it possible to have a person who's doing grassroots worker using someone else pictures or credentials. And then once the application process is done, then it could be all the record management could be done in blockchain. So this is a very easy example where we can relate to and immediately solve a big problem. So think about it, when if it's a well-known personalities, even their credentials are being used, we are not able to control it. Think of the kind of abuse of the facilities and the schemes which have been in place for last 50, 70 years. So, and the other thing is, how agile are we in implementing systems and processes in place? Okay, this is just an example. Last year, when I was following this up very much, um, noticed within a week in China how the government, the president is showing interest that the blockchain is a big opportunity on October 25th. And on October 26th, the whole Congress party, meaning their government bureaucrat, they all and the lawmakers immediately bring in a law to support the whole technology leverage which the president is inviting. So think of something like this happening in India, like when we identify an opportunity and then to implement it, how long it can take, right? And then there is a policy making, and then the support systems are going to be in place. So this is a long cycle, but things are improving because I have been involved, and I can tell you, Tamil Nadu government is the first state to have implemented uh, AI, blockchain, and their IT security policy for 2020. So all together. So this happened last month, and I'm happy that I was one of the panelists to uh, review the AI policy, and the AI policy is kept in line with how it could safeguard human interest, because when everything is automated, it could lead to problems. So that is the focus in which it was created. Uh, Please do interrupt me if you have any questions or if there is any issues hearing me. Okay. So this is the thing which I was saying. So within 2 weeks, the individual state governments, so they are backing up with funding to promote new companies invest in blockchain projects. So this is just an example how agile other countries are and how fast we need to keep up with the adoption and demand. So for today's discussion, I will more focus on blockchain part of it, but we can relate to AI because AI has been in, and I will focus more on the IBM solutions which are in place and in 4 different sectors. So let's start with food trust. So I hope in the last series of sessions, you all are very much aware of the fundamentals of blockchain and AI. So, but let me try to give some industrial application and commercial use for it. So let's first take up the example of food. where um, so we all know that every day, even in case of the pandemic, food and health are two primary things. So you can avoid everything else like travel, luxury, entertainment, but food and health are very important things. Uh, so the scenario in the food sector is we all want, even in US, this is a scenario in US. So think of in other countries, other places, how much the system could be kind of mislabeled, wrong product categorization, and how contamination and other things might be happening. So in here, 1 out of 10 people get sick each year, and close to 500,000 people die from foodborne illnesses. So we are worried about corona a lot and what is going on, but just by your normal food consumption, even in US, close to 500,000 people die. And even in, again, I'm saying, emphasizing on the US, because we all think everything should be digital here. But in commercial consumer product goods industry, 80% information is still paper-based, which is a big issue in creating efficiency in supply chain. So, and then food waste. So we all worry about hunger um, and famine, all related, but we waste 1/3 of food which has been produced, which is all unacceptable because it started decaying or some kind of infected, so some kind of contamination has happened. I'm emphasizing again this because if you see this year too, the Nobel Peace Prize was awarded to uh, the World Food Program, and how efficiently food has helped in uh, controlling the pandemic in um, poor nations. And the last thing which we notice is the food fraud. So when we speak about the IT, what is the risk kind of thing, technicalities at the back end, but here I'm trying to focus more on the application side of it, right? So day to day, what we consume, use, how it has been badly affected. So here there's a mislabeling because things look alike, but they may not be exactly the same, and it might be of high value. One thing might be high value, it could be wrongly labeled as another product, and it had been sold at a higher price. So, so these are the problems which we looked at it. So what is the issue, right? So the issue is there is lack of transparency. So, and why? Because as we mentioned earlier, when data is siloed and also paper-based, and there are a lot of intermediaries, and each of them have their own way of, one second, each of them have their own way of keeping their record keeping. It becomes very difficult to ascertain where is the issue, right? So this is just an example how the conversation or transactions happen between different entities, which makes it very cumbersome to even ascertain where the issue is. So how are we going to solve it, right? So blockchain, so we all know about the blockchain creates in trust, transparency, and efficiency, right? So um, so that's the way we are trying to, when the trust, transparency, and efficiency can be brought into the system by using of distributed ledger and immutable transactions and digitizing all the content, we try to create a trust framework which will help solve most of the problems. So the inefficiencies and the problems can be exposed. Is it? It will be easier if it could be made interactive. So I just want to make sure if there is any questions I can answer then and there. So interrupt me if you have any questions. I just want to make sure, is it being clear and what we are trying to target, what the problem is and how the solutions are targeted?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is a thing which symbolically represent how the technological convergence, right, of different. So if earlier we started with RDBMS systems, which helped in robust databases, but now we are speaking about distributed. So earlier also it was distributed, but it was not. Here we are speaking about distributed ledger technology, and we are trying to not manipulate or allow any change of data, or even if it's changed, there are approved entities which does that, right? So there are multiple blockchain platforms and development framework. Um, I have been more exposed to one of the framework, which is Hyperledger. Let me give a little bit of background on Hyperledger. Hyperledger, so when we say about, I don't want to bore you all with again the basic stuffs, but I just want to make sure all kinds of audience are covered, and if they are attending the session for the first time, they still could get some information about it. So when we say blockchain, it's most of the things everyone relate to is bitcoins, right? So and anyone can become part of that network, blockchain network, and participate and be a host and serve. So and many people do that, right? They serve many millions of transactions, and by hosting they also earn the revenue. So given that as the backup, we all think, so it's all public blockchains. But today what we are discussing in specific is enterprise blockchains, where we want to take the advantage of blockchain, but we want to keep it in a closed group level. The reason what we are trying to say is, if there is a hospital who wants to create a trust network and framework, um, the kind of systems which needs to go in is mostly like the government agencies, the insurance companies, the doctors, the test facilities. These are the kind of systems which needs to come together and participate in the network. If that is the case, then would you make it very open for a farmer to participate? If the farmer as a public wants to participate in the healthcare, that's okay, but not for having agricultural blockchain framework to come and input data or participate into a healthcare system. So we don't want to keep it very open because it will become very difficult to control. So when we say enterprise blockchain, it's restricted. It has all the advantages of blockchain, but it's with more of a trust and approval framework within the bodies which has come together to work. So in here we are speaking about food. So the food, different kinds of entities which needs to come and work together. Is there is a farmer who's producing, is there is a processing plant where they process food or reprocess the food, and there is a distribution center and warehouse where they store and forward, and there's a transportation network, and there's a retail network, and then it at last a consumer consumes it. So here we are speaking about a food trust blockchain platform. Hope you get an idea why enterprise blockchains are required and where we want to control with keep things within a closed group of diverse interest communities in here. So there's a farming community, there is a manufacturing community, there is a transportation and warehousing community, and there is a retail community coming together in this case. Uh, so for that, so little bit background on Hyperledger 2. So the Hyperledger so and one of the platform, Hyperledger has multiple platforms. So if you go to hyperledger.org, you will see multiple projects. Fabric is one such project which IBM and Digital Assets initially took lead. So you need to understand how it works. So Hyperledger is like Linux, and to be here, it's exactly run by the lead has been taken by the Linux Foundation, but for blockchain purpose, they created an open source entity for the industry leaders to come and develop efficient enterprise level blockchain projects. So it could be used. So most of the Linux Foundation companies uh, are participating in Hyperledger Foundation too. So that's how the Fabric is one of the projects, and here we are focusing on how the Fabric in all the four products, Fabric is what is being used as a platform. So this is an open source kind of platform development framework, but then industries can. So in this case, I'm taking an example of IBM where they have used the Fabric platform to develop a food trust blockchain platform. So what are the capabilities of this platform, right? So the capabilities of the platform is to trace the origin of the product. Uh, for example, in our sense, we call it like with geotagging, right? So for example, this is not food, but the uniqueness of the skill set, and it can be also called like we say Tirunelveli Alva, right? The Dindigul Put. So which means in each of the places they have some USPs or uniqueness which is comes up with the place where it is manufactured or the process which is underlined along with the place where of origin. But then if that is the case, but I get some product output and I'm pricing it higher because it has the unique value in it. Uh, but how can I be very much sure, and how can I ensure the customer is getting exactly the product from that location? This is just one other tangential example I'm speaking about. But here, the reason for tracing the food is to find where the problem happened, where the contamination happened, where the quality was not maintained. That is the intent with which here it is being used, but it could be used to provide value to the customer to ascertain exactly the place of origin too, which I can come and relate to at the end, how it could be useful in uh, one of the new emerging areas on an ancient science. Okay. So this is that's a trace, and then there is certifications. So we all expect, we are known for a long time ISO certification is there, but now if you speak about food in India, there is a GMP certification, right, good manufacturing product, practice. How will we know the facility which is producing all the products is being well maintained and it's in a controlled environment? So it's by some third-party certifications, correct? But when we say third-party certifications, how will we know it was really audited and controlled? Um, it's a challenge. So what we are enabling in here in this platform uh, using the blockchain is when the certifications are issued, that is saved in the blockchain. So for example, the inspection was done on the this manufacturing or processing plant. for the way the environment is hygienically maintained. If it was expired in October and in November still the facility is producing and claiming to have their certification in place, it's very difficult to go and track it down that they didn't do the inspection or anything. But if it is put in blockchain will automatically trigger, and there is less chance of manipulating any information, because once you load it, you are not allowed to edit unless it was by mistake and proper explanations are given, and there is consensus between the different parties, and we will know who's the approver, and that's the only way we'll get the latest update on the data. The next is fresh insights. So we access to real-time data. So in this is also, I just jumped into the talk directly. I need to explain a little bit of my background in here. So my experience has been into providing, so I started in 2003. I joined G as a business analyst. So I started my career as a data analytics professional 17 years back. And that's where I got a Six Sigma certification and other things. So my job profile was to G executives all around the world, and G is one of the uh, used to be the top company along with Exxon for a long time, until the IT revolution took over, right? So it's more than 140-year-old company, right? It was started in 1878, I think, by Thomas Alva Edison. So they are into everywhere. So they needed, when we are all speaking about back office and uh, the repeatable jobs being taken over, here GE was one of the pioneers, along with American Express, to take back home knowledge-based services and high-end management decisioning being done through a pool of trained data analytics professionals coming mostly from management background and statistics background. So the company I was providing service was for transportation industry, and the challenge was they had a lot of assets, but they didn't know real time. So it was more of a financial uh, company, because they were financing for the vehicles, right? You call it trucks and trailers, because in India, uh, the front, the motorized engine component and the storage component are attached most of the times. But in US, it's a detached thing, just to make use of better use of the money put in place, because the engine is more costlier than just space with mobility, right? So if there is a risk of the consignment needs to be waiting at the warehouse or something, the driver as well as a truck will be underutilized and they will need to wait. But if there is a ability to detach and park it, and they go and fetch another asset, uh, can be engaged for picking up another consignment, then the cost of the total operation would be less. So here it's a different environment. So what happens is when you drop off your trailers think it about wheeled containers, right? So it's safe, secured, and then you can open, unlock, unload, but it could be attached, just pulled on by a truck. So we call it a tractor trailer combination. In India, it's called just one truck, right? So what I'm just giving background about the industry I come from. So what we use it when you have like companies like GE leasing out assets to thousands um, consumers or middle level enterprises. When the lease is over, it might be dumped in some place, like it's like 50 foot, 40-foot containers kind of length. So it becomes really unmanageable to track down the assets. So they put in tracking device close to 20 years back. We're speaking about IoT and analytics now, but this is what I was actually fortunate to get exposed to these technologies very, very early on. So that's one of the things I'm able to leverage um, and use it along with. So AI, blockchain, and IoT is my overall domain where we try to leverage, and the convergence is coming through now. Um, so what we used to track is have a satellite-based tracking system of assets, and that also can be monitoring the temperature, pressure uh, of the consignment which is taken place. For example, when we spoke about applications, assume that's a fresh green, right? Fresh green na நம்ம கீரை தான் இங்க fresh green இல்லையா? So the there we just try to harvest and consume within couple of days, right? If you don't sell it in couple of days, and if you don't have proper refrigeration facility, it will get wasted. So here it might take a week or more than week to even reach from farm to, because you can process, you want to clean, wash, repack and store and forward, and the shelf life might be maximum 2 weeks. So within that, it's needs to be maintained at 40 degree, uh, 40 degree constant, 40 to 50 degree constantly. If you don't maintain that, then your shelf life is going to deteriorate faster. So how are we going to monitor continuously, and how do we know? For example, this is a refrigerated truck and it failed for some reason, but then the consignment is delivered. At the receipt condition, it might be again functioning. So when we receive, we might not know that uh, that there was some failure happen, due to which the food has already started deteriorating, but the retailer who's getting it will not know. He will put a shelf life of best use by 7 days, right? But the real thing is this has started getting spoiled due to the failure in between, which was not communicated or captured anywhere because it was in transit during that time. So uh, it was not captured, and we are having the reason for the waste which was happening is due to this information which was not available. Otherwise, if they knew that something of this happened, they will immediately put on a discount sale and bring down the shelf life to 2 days and push it off so it doesn't get wasted. But due to the information was not available, or real-time monitoring was not possible, they didn't know, or even the loss of revenue for these guys, right? So they don't want to expose themselves, they might not have communicated, and it's very, very difficult to tell where the source of the problem was. But now we are doing continuous monitoring, so the shelf life, the product freshness, and everything could be ascertained, um, and the misintent can be controlled. And here what we are speaking again is, if there are other third parties who wants to participate, who's related to the food, they can also be part of the system and participate. So depending on time, I can go into the details, but uh, oh, you've taken significant time. So this is deep dive into the trace. So for example, if you see here, if I type in something like a pizza, this is a product. If you use this blockchain platform, it will show exactly. So we are all used to pizza back home too. So this is the finished product. So there is in a specific store, there are not a specific store, the number of stores which is carrying this product, right? There are 125 stores happening, and there are 5 distributors, and there is one manufacturer who has manufactured the pizzas, and but the raw materials and ingredients have come from different sources, right? So this is a manufacturing facility, this is a warehouse, and where they have the wheat, cheese, chicken, and other ingredients coming in. And there are 9 different farms who are supplying different products. So, so this is how the traceability is being ascertained, because all of them are in the network. So you know specific which package of cheese was used on which end product pizza. So when you know there is a, if you know the similarity of some specific pizzas having a problem, then you can ascertain if it's a single batch of cheese which relates to it, then you can do a recall on that specific um, cheese affected or produced pizzas, instead of going and doubting all the cheese. Even in today in US, um, if there is a potato, there is a E. coli or um, uh, any kind of issues, they immediately stop using it, and they send a circular that this FDA sends a circular, there is an issue, uh, and they make aware, and they are trying to find out the source of the problem. Until then, everyone try to not use it. So there is a huge waste, and sometimes this can extend to up to 6 months too. So if for 6 months, like a product like potato or something which has been hugely produced, and in most of the ingredients are to be out of suspicion we can be using. Think of the farmer who's planned to produce it, right? He has to dump all of them waste because there is no one to take it. uh, Even if there's just to buy, like all the restaurants, due to the pandemic it was closed, so here they use fries a lot. So suddenly the market for fries is any food product they give. If you go to McD or Wendy's, everything they give potato fries. But now suddenly the consumption, the outlet for those products are not there. So the farmers were heavily affected, and something like milk was also just poured on the road, or they are just wasting it because they didn't know what to do. How they are, they might be only supplying to cheese companies, and the cheese is not being consumed. So there was a lot of if the supply chain gets backed up, everything gets into turmoil. So this is what we are what we are saying, conduct surgical recalls. What I explained about a specific lot can be identified, and only that recall could be done. And also we can tell which kind of ingredient caused the issue, and reduce also the food fraud and improving food safety. So I mentioned about the certification earlier. So the certification and the food, since it's not maintained clearly, that is costing $40 billion. So to see the amount of money each of them. So one recall costs $10 million, and the overall the food fraud is costing $450 billion annually. So $40 billion is an whole industry. It's a whole new industry and market. But here the fraud happening itself is costing $40 billion. So this is what I was trying to tell. Which facility, who is having the certificates, and if the certificate is expired or not for different growers, everything can be maintained in this platform. So I mentioned about potato. Rice potato is a root crop too. Uh, so because the problem with root crops is because you are pulling out from the soil, so the soil contamination is more. So the number of, it's very, very difficult to control uh, the bacteria in the root crops. So there is a lot of time issues. So it's $680 billion. So think about it. So much of waste, and just because there is inefficiencies are there. So when we bring in the insights into what is going on, we create a lot, reduce the food waste and increase shelf life. And when we're wasting less, then it's a more sustainable ecosystem. That's how the relationship is. So here we are just giving the complete value chain. So the I'm just taking an example of IBM. SAP has a similar product, and there are many other products in the market nowadays. But the underlying concept of blockchain and how it can be used is all same. So it's not only the consumers who benefit, it's each of them have their own benefit, even the farms, right? th- so now if chicken has a problem, all the chicken farms are affected. Even they have not done anything, but they are affected by the problem. But now they can prove, see, the source is not from them. They have proper certificates, they maintain proper hygiene standards. So they are safeguarded. Uh, so in a similar way, if you speak about the manufacturers, then the certification management itself is a headache. But now we can automate and reduce how the manual certificates are to be done. And and now it's all digitally controlled. So the the supplier and the retailer trust is instilled. I think we have discussed a little bit here and there, touching most of the uh, advantage. I'll jump to the final thing. So this is a use case where for initially the food trust, if you go Google itself, this is all public information. You'll find out how Walmart did its pilot. So the pilot case was they took the final product from a shelf in the retail outlet and tried to find out where from this came, right? So before this was in the traditional ways, they had to backtrack from the store to the distribution center. This is sorry, I'm doing the reverse way. So there's a consumer, the store, they are purchasing, and then how they got into the store from the warehouse. And it could have been like international consignment, right? Coming in from different place and going up to the farm. So in this specific example, it took close to 7 days to even find out what where from this came, right? So the biggest challenge was there are data is in silos, like each of the parties are working in uh, mm, they have to go back and ask, hey, where from you got this mango? And they'll go and find out the paperwork, or they'll find out who's the vendor, who's the transporter, and what happened. So that was taken close to 7 days. But when you have digitized, uh, use this kind of blockchain solutions and trust solution, it takes only 2 seconds. So think of, if you want to recall, you can make a finding and analyze the data within few hours. A decision could be taken, whereas you have to wait 7 days. You don't have no clue. What you have to do is announce there is a recall in mango. Don't even use mango. Dump all the mangoes. So totally, even the good food, in just by name of doubt, because it's taking more time to ascertain the problem, it has to be dumped. So then I'll jump into the other use cases. I'll be fast because it's a similar thing. This is for the trade lens. This is a collaborative product. IBM and Maersk is the biggest ocean trade. They manage lot of so it's not like the trucks, right, where it's loosely controlled. When we speak about huge ships is very expensive and there is less fleet. But 80% of the goods we use goes through the ocean shipping industry. Okay, and more than $16 trillion are shipped across borders. So we can bring in, if we can bring in efficiencies and visibility into the different platform and remove the barriers it established. You can have a huge cost saving, which is 10% of 1.8 trillion, right? So it's huge money involved, and most of the cost is administrative cost, right? So there's a huge market to create efficiency. It's a similar problem where there are too many parties involved and the data go in a very haphazard way. And if there's a problem in this information, how will port know that there was a problem between the supply chain and the freight forwarder? So similar issues, fraud, high cost data is in silos, manual and time consuming because it's in paper based, or some independent systems. So here too, we are trying to bring it in one single platform. So the important thing to know is we are not telling all information is in one platform. What we are saying, the vital common related information is what is being added in. Otherwise, the cost of maintaining the data in blockchain will explode and it will make it highly unviable solution to to f- to to take advantage of. So information is shared. There is collaboration and trust because everyone have a control about what is going on and connects the ecosystem. So in here, it's a different kind of network members. So there we are speaking about the producer, farmer kind of thing. Here it's ocean carriers, port terminals, government authorities. And I want to highlight one thing, um, whether we want it or not, most of the ports are privatized now in India too. And Adani uses this Tradelens platform to manage one of their, because they, when in the COVID, they were heavily affected and all their shipments came to standstill. So what they did is they took advantage of the system to cut down when people was not available. So they thought this is an effective way to grow or manage efficiency. And India too, these platforms are used, just in case we didn't know. And one of the thing is they allow third-party people to come and develop and leverage the solution. And yes, it's all very controlled by the platform, uh, the peer nodes as well as the other participating nodes. So similar benefits exist for different people, from the government to the import, export, customs, and the financing companies now have. So financial companies is one important thing. Until the good, they finance for a load or for a consignment, and until the load is delivered, here too the delivery might have happened today, and the payment settlement might take 2-3 weeks to receive. So when the services are completed, why should it take 2 more weeks? Because it causes a lot of cost pressure on the person who's financing the deal. The cost of operation is going to high because the term he's financing is now unnecessarily increased by 2 more weeks, which is huge money. There is interest cost in it. But if you can ascertain the delivery really happened and the information backflow happens, the settlement can happen better. So there is a more efficient use of the capital, right? So I was speaking about places, how it is being, this is what, so all of these ports are already using this platform. This is year and a half old data. So think how fast things have been changing. The reason I'm emphasizing it is um, the need for technology professionals as well as developers in this space, right? Is going to in tremendously increase, because suddenly you are expecting some systems and technologies to be adopted uh, within a shorter time frame, right? So there is huge demand, and these are all comparatively newer. So that's one of the reason. So it's close to here 2 2:30 a.m. But I wanted to share and give the knowledge back and enlighten some minds. So you as assistant professors or professors and lecturers can tell it's not just blockchain or AI is not just a gimmick or buzzword. It's already in use, and it's very broadly used. and the demand is there. So I'd be happy to guide in the right place. So if you're all interested to do something after this conference too, so would love to help. And these are all real world applications. So this little bit of background. So what is the thing which we are putting in blockchain and how things are being efficiently used? So we are speaking about shared ledgers, smart contract. This terminology you might have heard many times, I think, in the last week or so during the conference about the contract and shared ledger, the privacy and trust, how it is being created, because we are using cryptography. So it's very, so unless everything is authenticated, secure, no one else can look into things. And here it's very clean. The business logic is all shared, approved before itself, and the data is across the business network. So the other two might have been more relevant, but I wanted to make it more relatable. So I explained the food uh, example more than the worldwide and the identity management, which is the third and fourth kind of application. So worldwide is having single. Today there is even if I send money today to back home, even to parents, the the bank or the it would look like the instant transfer, right? But it's not really instant. Someone takes the risk of, even before they receive the money, they are going to settle it at the end point, but they will charge a premium for that because they are taking a risk and they are paying before the money comes in. So how things can be made faster, because there is a lot of silos. So in here also we are speaking about trillions of dollars, right? So uh, there are different payment methods. So what we are trying to bring out is, and this is how today's payment systems work. So why it takes a lot of time uh, to transfer money across entities borders, right? So inefficiencies are there, costs and delays. So but here what we are doing is we are creating again, since this whole thing is reference to IBM product, but it could be any product. But IBM did think about this and come about and use this and create applications a couple of years back itself. So it's like there's no more other people involved. If there is a government, then we just keep the government informed. So this is how I'm just trying to show example how complicated it is, because there is governments everywhere and official parties everywhere. They try to have regulators and other things. So we are speaking here 10%, 20 to 20% savings in efficiencies. Um, Overall transaction cost is decreased close to. So we are speaking that only 50%, 15%, even 50% is a huge reduction. So here also we are speaking about creating a network of networks. That's how this blockchain network can help. So I'm not getting into the details, but this is how I started the conversation. Uh, I'll keep one of, I mean, I'll finish it in an hour and I'll keep it for discussion because I'm running through a lot of topics and applications in an hour. So on the identity management system, which is very, very important, right? So the identity is universal and it has diverse applications. A person's identity, here we have SSN, social security number, which is one number which is used all everywhere in government bodies, even for any credit validations, there's one number. But how is it possible to have one number? Uh, if you have one number and if that information is not true, and if there is a problem in it, then everywhere it's going to be a problem. So that's where I started with um, the Rajiv Gandhi daily yojana, whatever they call it now, daily தமிழில் 100 நாள் வேலை வைப்போம். ஸோ அந்த காசெல்லாம் கூட how it is not efficiently managed, because there's no clear identity management system. We don't know who is the beneficiary, and all the even the identity information which is provided is not validated. So that's what I started with AI to validate, and blockchain to save and retrieve, and also we facilitate the transactions. It's so this here too, it's a lot of money involved, right? Identity is the basis, so that you know about the data breaches, cyber attacks. So this, and it's going to increase. So the importance of security comes in here high time, right? A person's individual security, because it exposes a lot of other things, their financial capabilities, and everything can be linked to the identity. So banks spend like 1 billion a year on identity management solutions. And I was also checking a few days back, like everyone's identity has been compromised, and data breaches do happen. So this definitely needs to be can be controlled by efficient uh, systems in place. So again, this issue is the information is in silos, right? And no one person has a uh, control over how who should share the information. So here we are getting into the more technical details, how the private, public key infrastructures are used, how individuals are identified and tied, um, and how the identity management has been established, and how blockchain entrusts trust, and blockchain provides more privacy, and it can be scaled up uh, to the final point of transaction. So when you speak at the edges means uh, when you are going and shopping, the edge transaction is the last place where you swipe the card, right? So if there is intelligence built in, that the the card reader immediately identifies that that person can't be in that place and there's a suspicious transaction, and the identity alerts are the intelligence built at the edge. Then instead of the way earlier the problem used to be detected is, um, we used to run back office programs overnight. We go through the trillions or millions of transactions happens for a bank and finds out something appears to be suspicious. For example, one of the logic could be, if the person has made a transactions throughout the day, for example in Delhi, and in a couple of hours there is a transaction showing an out of place, then definitely it could be a problem, right? For example, sometimes it happens in Thailand, that kind of transaction. So it takes more than 2 hours to even read. So basically, it's not possible. So they can do all kinds of data modeling and find out the outlier transactions. And if they find a pattern, apply the pattern. The pattern is applied to the AI solution, which identifies all the fraud, and then applies to other data, what other people data, and find out what could be a possible fraud. So what we are speaking is it takes like 2 days or 3 days to, or minimum 20, 12 to 14, 24 hours to find out, to be notified about a fraud. But now when we are speaking about edge transactions, it's kind of close to instantaneously. It will say, it will reject the transactions and send the alert. So this is just a name given. There's a sovereign identity. Uh, is so there is a issuer, there is a owner, and there is a verifier. All of them are in the public blockchain, and then the identity management can be established. So one of the things I want to highlight is, for this a different project I mentioned about Hyperledger. So there is something called Hyperledger Indy for the development, because here we are speaking about the public key infrastructure and other things which are unique. So we have Aadhaar, the fingerprint readers, and the certificate, and this is the key management uh, permissioning keys. All of these helps in ascertaining the identity and also safeguarding the verifying the credentials. So this is kind of example which I was saying. So if there is a credential, if for example uh, we are speaking about doctors, right? Whether a doctor has done his job correctly, is he truly a doctor? Everything from someone needs to validate. They'll produce some certificates to the hospital where they are working, but how the hospital doesn't know, they use a third party validator who goes and validates the credentials. But if the university is linked, the data can be anytime assessed to validate all the credentials, then it's close to real time. The audit, and another problem which normally happens is there is a block. So the two things which blockchain also helps is, one is cutting down the mediators, right? And the second thing is the auditors and the legal issues. Why do you need the mediator identifies and says it's not working out, so then someone goes and sues someone, and then there's a whole legal cost. These all are happening after the fact, which is the overhead. So what we are saying is that is not at all required if the real time the credentials are all managed um, and validated through this blockchain systems, and the AI systems work in the edge and identify kind of frauds and issues, then it goes well in well. And we can, so the edge system is kind of IoT system, right? That the intelligence is built at the end system, which is computing and telling that there is a problem or a fraud. So we spoke about this. We saw as how the credential is flowing in a simple environment, but when you have a complex environment, there is a government. If based on the claim made, and the doctor needs to go and settle with the government because there are some government scheme involved to pay for the healthcare, then there are multiple parties involved. Okay, so we have some custom solutions also. So there are a lot of other applications. Uh, okay, so, so I think I want to stop here, pause here, and I think we have kind of exactly at the 1 hour mark. So I want to open up for questions, and I can share some specifics on the policies and how TN government uh, has launched and where you can look at it. And if you all are interested, then I can share about the share about uh, I'll share the policy making thing and how it can be used uh, by all of you in developing applications and also creating more awareness about what's going on in this area. Is that good?
Yes, sir.
Any questions?
Participants, if you have any questions. Sir,
Yep.
one question, sir. In India, how can, say, IBM solve the scalability problem in blockchain?
So that's the role. So let me show you something. This is a recent policy which was launched. So, like for example, there are a lot of government schemes, right? So how can they? Are you seeing my? Oh, I need to. I need to share. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, sir, your screen is visible. What makes a good blockchain use case? That slide we are seeing.
Aren't you seeing the Tamil Nadu policy
No, sir.
now?
Still the same slide.
Now?
No
Still?
change. Still the same.
Oh, it's saying sharing is resume share.
Now it's came, sir. Now we can see. Tamil
So
Nadu.
if you go to the Tamil Nadu government website, this has been a new policy. This is what the earlier policy which I was referring to. Today I covered on blockchain expecting because the AA has been in place for like from 1970s. It was heavily used for manufacturing and more hazardous circumstances. But now what we are speaking about is uh, the only thing what I'm seeing, the underlying equations and underlying uh, uh, the concepts are same, but what which has changed is the consumption, the ability to compute faster and the storage and the amount of data which has been accumulated through the edge devices. The AI's application has increased very much. So if you're looking for, I'll come to the question just because I'm trying to share something where you can find the latest policy and guidelines. And what I was referring to is this is one of the policies I because I believe in we have all the capabilities and but if unless we get involved in the policy level, um, if the policies are not made correctly, then for years it is going to affect. So that's one of the reason I reached out to the government and they were uh, happy to involve experts in this field. So this is an ethical AI policy which has been launched. And if you see when you're speaking about the scalability and other things, the need for uh, the government has to facilitate few things. For example, if you are expecting the farmer to leverage communication data, AI, and blockchain, unless there is a faster access and easier access, and there is a robust framework, that's not going to happen. I'm trying to go to the specific slide where they are focusing on scalability as an if you look into this, it speaks about government going to implement and developing the platforms and to solve the scalability problem. Basically, they are creating um, totally digitized, so free, high speed internet, 5G internet capability, for which the data can flow in even from farmers. So scalability, it's like when I showed the uh, commodity food, right? There is so much food. So only thing is you need to decide what is the critical information which is to be shared. So if you go and try to put everything, these systems are going to, it becomes very expensive systems. So I'm just also trying to be frank about what is the other side of the things. Yes, definitely there is efficiencies, but it's a trade-off. It needs to be, you need to really understand what you need to put in. So this is the AI policy, and I think I had and this is the blockchain policy, and there is the IT security policy also launched. So the thing which I'm trying to emphasize is government and the private parties have a bigger role to create the infrastructure and facilitate so that many products can be brought in For in here, the government calls it a Nambike name platform. Okay, but you need to have all the infrastructure setups so that that there is scalability can be easy. Otherwise, the cost of scaling up will be very high. And also, we are speaking about collaborative blockchains. So in here, we are speaking about one blockchain platform. For example, if the government, the healthcare system, the the Minister for Health, the Minister for Agriculture, if they all go and try to build their own platform, then it's going to be very, very expensive. And if they all wants to have their own identity management solution, the whole benefit, it's not a scalable platform, because each of them to even identify something, that identity management solution itself will be very expensive. So what we are speaking about is one identity management solution which can be shared by different blockchain platforms, one for health, another for agriculture, but they can leverage the systems and resources. So you all can leisurely go through this. So the role of if someone can explain what is the exact concern, then it will be easier for me to answer to. I am speaking about more of a conceptual standpoint. What is the limitation? Because we are speaking about latest technologies, how it could be made it to broad scale applications. But what my answer is, the role of public sector, government is also key, because they need to make an investment like what the Tamil Nadu government has also taken a lead. uh, that also needs to be, so what we call as a blockchain. This is what I was trying to show. The scalability can be done if there is a backbone already in place. And here we are speaking about one main backbone. Is that okay?
Okay, sir.
So was that session useful? Did you guys have a grasp of where and all it's been already in place, and how other countries are, like China, are trying to leverage it? So there is a lot of opportunities, and we need to be agile, and we can work with your college too to impart direct training or more hands-on workshops, so that we create um, um, engineers and management professionals who are aware of the latest in technology to use and benefit from. So one, we have a lot of resources, and two, we get into jobs and uh, employable positions sooner. So we'll stop share unless anything related to the topic is required.
Fine, sir. Participants, do you
Wrap
have
it up,
questions?
or so I see Frank also there.
Yes, sir. Frank sir is here.
Okay. So if we are at the end, first of all, I'd like to thank you all for giving me an opportunity to share what's going on and what we are working on, and how different technologies can come together, right? It's not one technology, it's IoT, AI, and blockchain in together, which can be leveraged and which can solve government problems, the beneficiary problems, and even the consumers' problems.
Okay, sir.
Okay,
Okay, sir.
thanks all. If there is no more question,
Okay, sir. No more questions, it seems. Thank you, sir, for the wonderful session. We are highly indebted to your valuable insights.
thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Bye.
Okay. Now we are marching towards the end of the first phase of the STTP. Before concluding, let me thank you all once again. This AICT and CSI sponsored STTP would not have been possible without the unconditional support of the management of the KCG College of Technology. On behalf of the coordinating team, I thank the management for facilitating the conduct of the STTP and initiating the first phase of the same. Along with that, I would like to place on record my sincere thanks on behalf of the coordinating committee to our beloved principal for his guidance and associate dean for being instrumental in the conduct of the program. I would also like to thank our HOD, Dr. J. Frank Vijay, who has been the life force power behind the whole program and has been the constant source of motivation for the smooth conduct of the program. When I talk about the smooth conduct of the program, how can I forget our system administrator, Mr. Nibin Matthew, who took great care in hosting the meeting and running them smoothly without any technical glitches. I would also like to thank the entire coordinating team for their meticulous planning and effective execution of the whole schedule. Even when the local weather was not favorable, they stood by and made sure that the program went on without any hiccups. It would be an injustice if I do not remember the HODs and faculty members of other departments who helped us in sourcing our wonderful resource persons across the globe. I'm sure there won't be any two opinion on the expertise of the panel members. I thank all the experts who took time out of their busy schedule in making this STTP a reservoir of knowledge and creating such a wonderful learning experience. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all of you participants. Without your active involvement, this STTP would have been pointless. I thank all of you for your active participation, even when the local weather was adverse, as we had a good percentage of participation from Chennai itself. Before concluding, I would like to mention that all your feedbacks are being noted and will try to make the second and third phase of the STTP even a bigger success. For that, I request you all to register for the same, as we can assure you that we have planned to make it much bigger, and your active participation as in this phase 1 will make it a bigger and better learning experience. For your information, phase 2 will be from 14th December 2020 to 19th December 2020. It will focus on research approach. Phase 3 will be from 18th January 2021 to 23rd January 2021, which will address international practices and experiences. Undoubtedly, it will be handled by international experts in the field. Thank you all once again for the active cooperation. We are indeed happy to acknowledge the active participation of all of you, and your certificates will be mailed to you within the next 4 days. Mr. N. Bhaskar will be the point of contact for the same. You can see his details in chat menu. Thank you once again. Thank you. Bhaskar sir, please share the feedback form.
Yes, ma'am.
Participants, feedback link is available. Dear participants, hope you all have filled the feedback form. Thank you all once again for making this first phase of STTP a grand success. See you all in phase 2.
Ma'am, 1 second, ma'am. Dear participants, I am sharing one form for certificate, which is a correct name and your organization name. Kindly fill that too. Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, I have one request. This is Vetri here again.
Atel sir.
I want to share a couple of minutes on something related to the corona too, and how this technology plays a role. If you all have few minutes, I forgot to share that information because we are speaking about convergence of technologies. So if it's okay, I will
Sure, sir.
share it.
Sure, sir. We are happy to hear from you.
Are you seeing my screen?
Not visible now, sir. Participants, please stay online.
Are you seeing anything?
No, sir. Screen is not shared.
Because this is just a broader usage. So I thought just even if you can record and share later, it will be helpful to me. Share screen. So this is one of the other things. So I'm also involved in a lot of Tamil related activities, and I'm the global coordinator for Harvard Tamil Chair. We did a fundraising of $6 million and establishing in Harvard University a Tamil Chair. And then we are also working on several other initiatives, multiple Tamil Chairs in Toronto University, in Houston, uh, in University of London, and many other places, because our traditional knowledge is not still put to use or being more effective. One of the things which strike chord uh, in during pandemic is we in US also were struggling to see we didn't have a cure or any way to control the problem of corona, right? Till there is no medicine. But in India, we see like government launched a lot of Siddha practices, and it was like, how is it even possible, right? They found out that it's so effective. Um, then I got into researching more of this and started working with the Ministry of Ayush. I spoke to the health minister, the Ministry of Ayush Minister, Mr. Nayak, and Harshvardhan, the health minister, and also different secretaries to figure out why it can be globally used if we have some kind of effective control, right? And then found out how they were able to find out some kind of effective control is the symptoms, the COVID infection symptoms, and what kind of symptoms we had in our ancient Siddha practices. So it matched for the Kavasuram. I think that's one of the reasons you might have been. Kavasuram is the fever, right? So I'll come back to what is the relevance of blockchain and AI. So don't get like what is this has anything to do with it. It does have a big reason why I'm speaking about this today. This is a few of the scientific clinical trials which is happening using the Siddha practice, how it has been effectively in control. So when we say Siddha intervention, so when we say it's clinical trials, the population is divided into control and as well as a test. The control is already the allopathy medicine. The test is allopathy and Siddha integrated practice. So we are not saying that Siddha alone, right? Because if someone needs immediate oxygen, you need to give oxygen supply to him, otherwise he will die. You can wait for the medicine to go and work and get the lungs to become operational. So we are speaking about here integrated practice, how it could be put in place. Um, this is saying that so the death is reduced in this case of a severe patient. It has been reduced and how efficient it has been recovering. And this is a mortality rate, which is allopathy only treatment, and it's integrated Siddha and allopathy treatment, which is uh, 1/3, and late now we know this has further increased. This was a little bit earlier. So here is out of the 50, 33% of the people died, but out of the 49, actually 1% withdraw from the trial. So out of the 49, there were very, very few deaths. So my problem is, but this information is not even was not shared, or no one knew this, and even this is a scientifically conducted clinical trial, right? So this is a oxygen saturation level, which is very important in case of COVID, because the first thing is oxygen depletion due to shortness of breath and lung dysfunctionality, which causes the problem. So you can see how the test, which is Siddha integrated approach, has been more effective, right, compared to just the allopathy approach. So, and the scientific rationale began, we all are using this Kavasur coordinate, but how this helps is we have all the ingredients, like you use the fapanyl or ibuprofen, that is all anti-inflammatory, but we have been using for thousands of years the antiviral. And so the main thing is antiviral properties of the ancient herbs and medicines we had, right? So in Kavasur coordinate itself, there is 15 different ingredients, and each of the ingredients have different medical health benefit or effect. So one of the things is anti-inflammatory and antiviral, which is very important. And the other things which we speak about is immunity, right? So I can get into this detail in detail, but the point which I was trying to make is, so this is the compound names for the for each of the herbs, right? What is active ingredient? For example, we all speak about turmeric. In turmeric, the active ingredient is curcumin, right? But we don't know, whatever is yellow and it says turmeric, we consume it. But in internationally, they extract the curcumin and they market it like 1,000 times more pricey for their antibiotic property. Because what I'm trying to get to is improper labeling. We don't even tell if there is 2 turmeric packets which you procure, what is the active ingredients curcumin content, which is, so we just consume without, we consume without any effect. But how if we have a system in place where the transparency is there, where you can exactly tell there is 2 different 1 kg or half kg or 50 gram of turmeric powder, but what is the real active ingredient in it, right? That means it should be same volume of quantity of the turmeric, but the value is 100 or 100 times more. If your curcumin content is at 1 at 5%, another is like 0.02% or something. Because curcumin content, the way the main producer is in Erode, I think. I mean, that's where Dharmaburi area, where it's the curcumin content and the yield is very high, with high quality turmeric is got. So how would I know that the turmeric is harvested from Erode Dharmaburi area and the curcumin level was at the time of harvest 5%, at the time of frosting 4%, and at the packaging and the shelf life, if it's for a year, it should be around 3% when after a year at least. That visibility and transparency is never there. So this is just an analogy. The same applies to the medicine, right? When we speak about medicine here, when you speak about medicine here, the same thing applies. So what is the challenge? So really it's effective, and we know why it's effective because each of them has antiviral effect and anti-inflammatory, antipyretic, and what exactly it's happening. But still, why it's not being heavily like the scalable problem, right? Why it's not being effective. Even the government has not come out and spoken about it. And while we are trying to work from here, and actually we have also set up a new organization for this called World Siddha organization, because this is really a big thing when the world over, think about the money involved, right? So if really these things works, one thing is once we know how to make it to make people work in there, it's not a big problem, right? If the government gives assurance, they are used to some kind of, they know what it is, right? Um, so this is what I was relating to. So the money in this field is huge, but more than money, we all got involved due to the life it can save, right? Whether irrespective of where the where the solution is, and the traditional knowledge, how did they know all this thing information is. That's what there is a similarity between the technology used today in Bombay. The corporation uses voice recognition to tell if someone is corona affected or not. But the same, so what we are doing is you train people who has a normal voice and compared to that, um, who are corona affected person voice, and the computer identifies a pattern in the frequency of the when they are speaking, right? And it tells, oh, it's an easy detection mechanism. So today, if a computer detects through voice, we are accepting that it's science. But the same thing, if a person has been transferred the knowledge that hey, the voice will be different, or the symptoms or the eye retina, um, and how it will be appearing would be different. So if you see the ancient practice, they look into your eyes to find for indicators how badly it is affected. We might have been thinking, oh, he's doing something magical and it's not science. But today the same practice, Google does a retina scan and tell what kind of diseases are there. One thing what we are forgetting is human mind is still having more capability than the best computer, or it's actually 10 or 10 times or 3 times more uh, faster and capable than the best supercomputer, even at this modern times. So how would it just, we are not really understanding the traditional knowledge through our it's just a belief system. We believe that something is not real or science, but the more science is they had put in practice. So what has happened, it looks like, is today an experiment can be done in a controlled environment in 6 months or 30 days. But for them, it would have taken thousands of years, generation of generation. They try something, learn something, and they have documented few things as more effective. That's one of these ways this Siddha medicine has been so effective. So we are just seeing, we know just the, we don't see the whole experiment because it's happening over thousands of years. How can you document? And there is no way. The way it has been living till now is because it's getting evolved. So think of it like for 50 generations, some person before 300 years expertise is being re-researched and refined. What would the quality of output of that research? It's like highly refined, and you're building on one's earlier base fundamental progress which has been made on the subject. Today we are not even, we are looking about hardly 5-6 generation of modern people who has documented, and we are taking it forward. But what here we are speaking is around thousands of generations of people's learning, knowledge, and expertise, which through pure experimentation, uh, we can they have found out what works, what does not work, what is severe and what is not severe. And the other beauty about this whole thing is uh, they'll think, how come these clinical trials results came faster than others? In the modern medicine, if you want to try a new compound or anything, you need to first test it to phase 1 clinical trial, which is to make it useful to any living organism like mice or rabbit or cat, and then they go up to monkeys, and then they use it to mammals and human, right? But in case of the Siddha kind of medicine, you don't need to do that because by the 1950 Drug and Cosmetics Act, all these are documented as in practice and safe medicine, because for thousands of years, or at least 20 years, or they are observed after, and they are published as safer medicines. Because even today, after 1950, if something is causing a problem, then they can ban it, saying that, oh, they can take it out of the 1950 Cosmetics and Drug Act in Schedule 1. if it had been, like, for example, what I'm speaking in specific, like nilemimbiquidinir, which has been time and again very, very effective in controlling virus, right? So the SARS-2 also it was helpful. Chikungunya also it's helpful. Even now it is very helpful. So the easy thing, I think now people are less worried because we have looked into the things. There is so if you take there is a challenge in Kabasurukuddin. That's the reason I was trying to speak. The problem what everyone is using is why these things doesn't work is few of these ingredients when we are speaking are very feebly. One of the ingredients, I don't know which one, one of the ingredients is strictly available in Himalaya only. Okay, and the total production is only 1500 kgs maximum availability, because that's what very targeted people were using it. And suddenly in last 6 months, it would have raised 10,000 times. Like in here in US too, people are looking for this and consuming it. Okay. Here there is an analogy between the food trust problem what we had and the medicine problem, the herbs what we have. One, the market is trying to overuse. No, yes, it's effective, but you don't have a production capacity or a supply chain capability or stock of these raw ingredients. So what is happening is instead of this sendil, right, they go and use not to sendil. So just because it has a similar name, they substitute, and in the packaging, they'll just put sendil, but then the whole chemical compound is different, right? So now it's not going to work. It will have a similar effect, but it's not going to have, unless it's similar species, it might not even give any effect. So there is large scale of system abuse and making use of the opportunity. Now the government will not be ready to go and publicize it because this can be done in a large scale. The scalability problem is well exposed. So how can this be made into control? If you have the demand and supply, the producer, so if you know only 2000 tons of some ingredients was done, the maximum you could have produced is only 20,000 tons of the final product, which might be using specific ingredient in it, right? So, but someone needs to validate, take control of it. So I have been promoting this food trust. At least we can use it for similar medicine things. So when we are readily using it, we know what is the source, where from it was procured, and whether what is the shelf life, whether the right ingredients were used to give the right effectiveness. Okay, so the usage, this is a huge knowledge we had, right? This could have been transformational, like the whole system would have looked back into us, the whole world would have looked back into us. But just because we didn't try to use technology to control this and give the assurance, no one believes in it now, because when you buy these packets from different people and try to use it, it will not work because it's not having the right ingredients. And also there is no way you will have suddenly these things growing. So few of things are root, few things are bark, right? It takes years to grow, right? Now everything would have been already taken out, right? So I'm just throwing out this importance. Even kind of pandemic, we are not able to leverage our ancient science, which is pure science, because we don't even understand its science. And another thing, how it is working is, for each person in COVID, the problem, few people, it might be more of like they could have more diarrhea or a dry cough, or they could have a breathing problem. Not all of them will not have all of these symptoms, right? So the way the Siddha used to have work is it gives a targeted medicine. Okay, so only the target medicine is being tackled, but which is what the modern medicine is moving towards. They call it, you have to have it's called individual practice. So you don't give the same medicine to everyone, because each of them, their body react in a different way. So ancient Siddha medicine used to observe it. So they are say who has more Vata, Pitta. They just use different names, Vata, Pitta, Kabam, which is an indicator of the constitution of how their body and how their body reacts, kind of thing. So these unique individualized medicine system and kind of highly evolved medical system is what is helping in this case pandemic. And if you use technology like blockchain and AI to have the scans instead of a person trying to learn and find, you can convert the knowledge which is in there in the ancient textbook as programs which can go and detect for symptoms and indicate what the disease is. So we can have a highly integrated form of medicine which can evolve over the Tamil knowledge. So there's a lot of things like this. So I just wanted to share so that it's completely tangential view point, but it's real. I'm showing the real clinical trial results. But lack of people uh, in using technology has been the biggest prohibitive in using the right information. And this could be a huge market, trillions and trillions. So it's not only Kabasura coordinator. So what the problem is? So yes, Kabasura coordinator works in this case, but really you can't produce it. So you should have really promoted the Nilavem coordinator because it's very easily available. It grows easily, but there's not even any scholarly argument about it, and that's the reason uh, corona was still there. It could have been easily, if you promoted the right medicine to control, then we would have efficient ways of controlling where the cost of um, cure. The other problem is, I don't want to get into that dynamics. The real reason why these things are not coming out is there is a heavily invested pharma and healthcare system. So this, if you treat it this way, you can cure it in 5 days or 7 days, and it made the total cost. If you go in yearly, it's like close to 100% cure, right? Because your lung is not affected. So there are two other things which I wanted to just tell. So the main case, okay, reason for the death is they called it sleep happy hypnoxia. Suddenly your oxygen level goes down and they die. That's due to your lung gets infected, uh, and also the blood clots which form as when we call inflammation is the standard way. So the reason we get fever is when your body is trying to fight out, it is trying to create antibodies, and antibodies inflame your body, it raises your body temperature, and there is hemorrhage. The hemorrhage is, when there is a hemorrhage, there is clots, because our naturally when you get a cut, the blood is getting clotted because your antibodies coming and tries to make sure there is nothing getting infected. So that's a natural way. But when it happens inside the lungs, when there is infection and the viral infection and the inflammation automatically happens, you need to have anti-inflammation. They give steroids, but we are having efficient medicines which is anti-inflammatory. Pretty much all the ingredients in here are, other than one, are anti-inflammatory. So that's how this has been very, very effective, right? You need an antiviral. So and the other thing is the immunity effect. These are there are only two main reasons. So if this is understood, people will start adapting how it works, why it works, and how I can have an assured quality product and with the right ingredients, which will be more effective. So the other thing which was saying is cytokine effect. Cytokine effect is related to immunity. So when your immunity is a defense mechanism, right? So we are speaking about virus. Our body is like 50% or in your gut itself, the 50% of component is all virus and bacteria. So there are thousands more severe bacteria and viral, but your body has already learned to control them. But there's something new, it will go and fight it out. And when the immunity kicks in, so when we speak about build your immunity, this is immunity, you need to be healthy and you need more energy to fight it out. So I can get into the more details why things are working here, because they allow you to eat, they allow you to eat healthy food, you maintain a physical activity, so your body system is working in a moving state, and your mind is in a positive state because you're going with the mindset, oh, this works. In the other side, when you say allopathy, you're just taking a chance, right? So, and you're in a curtailed environment, and the whole your body is trying to shut down because you're in a negative frame of mind, uh, worried about things. So that's the reason I'm speaking more, this is only about severe cases. For mild and moderate, it it's very easy to, I mean, it's very easy to deal with because your lung and infection has not spread through. So the cytokine storm is your body wants to produce more antibodies, and it goes and works on every cell in your body, and it might also affect your mind, meaning brain cells or heart cells. And so it's like the cancer, right? We don't, in the modern medicine, the chemotherapy is nothing but it goes and kills any cell what is growing faster, right? The same concept. So even your like the first thing which is getting affected is your hair cell, right? The hair is, every day your hair grows faster, right? And here you are trying to put a drug which goes and kills the faster growing cells. The fastest growing cell is your hair. So your that cells, that's the reason for the hair loss, right? But you don't know which is where, which cell is, has to be tackled. You just go and spread, and so your whole body, your immunity is totally compromised. So that's the chemo, right? The same effect here happens here. The body goes overboard, and to fight with the virus, it goes and creates a cytokine storm, which it goes and fights with your own cells, and it will, when it affects your main organs, it leads to death. So the cytokine storm, and the second thing is the inflammations and the blood clots which happens, which will first affect oxygen exchange, and the second thing is the living cells are killed through the cytokine storm effect. So both can be controlled if it is effectively done at the early stages. Even in severe, these are all severe stage results. So the thing what I'm trying to tell is, just because you don't know the active ingredients are right and it is in right composition and there is no standardization, we are not even speaking about it, and there is no capability to monitor it in the practices, the modern medicine where it is being produced. It's that the facilities are tightly controlled certification, but the Siddha medicines are just produced in the facility where they have just good manufactured practices only, right? Which is 10 times lower control. So we can't even bring this drug to anywhere and use it because it's going to E. coli, which is acceptable back home, but not here. Here, E. coli is considered the biggest contamination. Immediately, they'll ban that any product, even food product. But what I'm trying to tell is, if you had a blockchain AI, AI can help diagnose the problem like the ancient Siddha. He has a practice of what are the symptoms he knows, and he's able to guide that can be transformed into AI knowledge. And the second thing is the traceability, which we have, and the insights, the certifications, all those advantages of a blockchain, which in food can be put into medicine and hence in medicine. And this could be a huge opportunity. Uh, Okay, sorry guys, this is just offshoot since I saw there's, I thought some other speaker was there, so I didn't want to take all the time, but then I realized you had blocked 2 hours. So let us just make use of the time to spread the knowledge. So in either way you want to join us, take the knowledge using the technology, this will be the big change which can bring. And because the cost of this, I just started earlier, if you're, the minimum cost is there like 3 to 5 lakhs if you go in for a severe patient. The advance itself there is 1.5 lakhs any hospital, but here you can get it cured within like 50 to 60,000 dollars, because the cost of medicine is only 1,000 to 2,000 rupees, right? Or if you even assume it's 10,000 rupees, it's way cheaper and effective compared to you're taking chances there. The way allopathy also doesn't have any idea about, they try to reduce the cytokine effect, they try to reduce the clots. That's the only two choices they have. So the only things they do is give steroids, irrespective of whether the effect is on the person or not. So for few it works, a few it doesn't work. That's the reason for death of many in case of allopathy only way. So again, emphasizing this technology convergence can bring in a lot of change. That's what I think your conference is also. Here I just want to tell why, since we are not keeping up with the technology and not ready to adapt, and also people are not aware of this, how to make use of it. We were not able to make use of something what we had effectively, and we could have been the world leader in this, and everyone would have been, it could have changed things differently. Thank you. Thanks all uh, for patiently listening to this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking additional time and giving valuable insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I'll just type in my mobile number. So if someone wants to reach me regard this and take any of this forward from the other technology standpoint, I would be happy to help any of you, and specifically the college, if you want to continue this and provide the value to the students, we can even try to do this. Okay, and you can even look for me. Oh, and you can follow me in LinkedIn, and it should be under this profile with 70.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks all. Bye.
Participants, once again, a big thanks for making this STTP a great success. Wishing to see you all in the next phase. And just a note, our WhatsApp group will be active. If you have any issues regarding the certificates or anything, you can contact through that WhatsApp or contact Mr. Bhaskar M. Thank you all.